André.
So, what a day, Valentine's Day, to pick for a launch of startreverse.com. I think it's pretty cool that if you know that we have a deep belief that love for your brand starts with love for your people, what would be a better day than Valentine's Day? And why is that? Why does love for your brand start with love for your people? Let me check. Who's in the room? Raise your hand. If you're in this room, raise your hand. Why does love for your brand start with love for your people?
People love your brand and they make a better impression on the guest.
Absolutely. Or turn it around, if they don't love your brand, what will be their performance? So, engagement drives performance, drives experience, drives brand value. So I thought Valentine's Day would be really, for many reasons, one heck of a day to launch Start Reverse. And thank you all for being. It really means a lot. For me, it feels a bit unreal, like we've been working a couple of years towards this day, and here it is. I think in all fairness, when we talk about startreverse.com, let's talk about what is it? I mean, yes, it's a book. We have videos. You just saw one. We have another one. And guys, Big Shots team, thank you so much for making this happen together. It's really fantastic. So we have videos, we have a website, but it has to be much more than that. That's something that we're creating together. It's supposed to be a source of inspiration. It's a journey, if you want it to be. It's a fast track to engagement and more brand value. It's really a movement, but if you look at it in essence, it also is a set of tools. And Sanne, you and I also have been working on Reverse a couple of years ago. What would you say has Reverse brought to you?
Well, a lot, because it makes your people part of your goals. And if they know what is your end game, they are part of it, and they show it with everything they do. You have to embrace them, to make them part of it, to really get involved, and then they present it to the customers. And that's what you need. Then it is sincere and not just
Absolutely.
like you asked them to act.
And let it go. I think I had an opening keynote this morning for one of our business partners who said, we want to have the premiere. I said, okay, you got it. And they said, what is in real essence, what is the biggest recommendation that you can give to us? And I said, don't compromise. Because what do most retailers do, or hospitality providers, automotive companies? They have like either a roadmap or a compass. They describe who they want to be, why they are, and then mess up. Or simply compromise. Because, and you get all kinds of reasons, could be compliance, or could be other reasons, just mentioning a word. I mean, you, Kruno and I had a lot of fun in Moscow and in St. Petersburg. But also there, as you see that it's important, and we had a very strong leader, a leader that stood up and actually said, okay, we got 15,000 staff. If we want to inspire our consumers to change their life through sports, this was Adidas, then we can no longer be salespeople. We have to basically change big time who we are as an identity, because if you're salespeople, you're not inspiring. So we Actually, they call themselves, from that day on, we are coaches, which I think is a pretty powerful statement. Retail sales associates become coaches. And because of that identity, and Jackie, you've been there, you know that a lot of change then actually happens. So it's a movement, and it's a set of tools. Why? Why? It's simple. We live in the Generation Y, and the Generation Y simply wants purpose. And if you don't matter, they won't want, either they work for you because they want to just have a job or need to have a job. But if you want them to work for you, to share delight, to spread delight, to basically bring love to your customers so your customers will love you back, it has to have a more profound meaning than just a paycheck. And Cliff will talk, I think, in depth. Cliff is one of my biggest sources of inspiration. Has been a hero already for 15 years, I think now.
It's more, Andre.
It's more? We don't want to know. IKEA, Nike, Nokia, so we had a lot of fun. But Cliff was one of the first who told me it's really all about purpose. It is about, if you look at the essence, if you're not relevant, you probably won't survive. It's about engagement, driving performance, driving experience, again, driving brand value. And it's about really the conviction that it's people. People are the experience. I mean, if you take a product or technology, take a hotel room or a lobby or a shop for that matter, or a bank, a new bank concept, or a new airplane, take the A380. I mean, how often can you surprise with a new product? Just imagine you walk into a new space and it looks like fantastic, and you're like, you feel this is awesome. Or Core, the new HEMA environment, you walk into it, it's ready, and the client walks in. How often can you surprise that client with the environment? What would you say?
Once, twice.
Once, twice. First time it's wow. Second time it's, oh yeah, that was pretty cool. The third time it's like, you don't even notice it anymore. And the fourth time it's like it's not there. It has become hygiene. Does that make sense? Yet can we build consistently? Can we make the experience consistently memorable? Not with technology, not with product, not with design, but how can we do it? Obviously, with people. And that was one thing that's crucial. That's one of the things I also learned from Cliff, is that experiences are progressive. What does that mean?
They adapt to the old situation.
Yes. And what I experienced, you have 7 stores open now.
Yes.
So what I experience in one store today, if it's cool, it's going to be my experience for the next day in the same store, or same day next store. I did a journey with the head of global customer experience at Shell Retail in London, and we visited a number of stores, and he said at the end of the day, he said, you know, my biggest insight is, and I never realized that, head of customer experience at a big company like Shell with more than 100,000 people in retail. He said, my biggest insight of today is that in the same store, at the same moment of time, we have 3 customers walking in who have 3 completely different experiences. And then he said, I think we have that at Shell as well. This is years ago, so I don't know if it has improved. That's up for you to decide. But I thought it was a very, very important insight. So it's really, the inconsistency is massive if we don't watch out. It is a bit like nature. And what happens in nature? You see a beautiful forest. I mean, the law of nature, at some point of time, it's time for death. It's what goes up must come down. What gets birth at some point of time will die. It happens to us, it happens to anything in nature. And if you see a beautiful forest basically burn down to ash, it makes place for new beauty, for new growth. And that's, if you want to, the start of a new forest, or even a completely new flora. Which is, if you want, what's happening in retail. Where at some point of time they're all, Arne, they're all gone. I mean, beautiful brands who were basically powerful forests on their own, but simply made place for instance, new blossom, new types of retail. Same goes for airlines. At some point of time, they're going and make place for new brands with a completely new proposition, or a little help from Allah. Golden Tulip is not gone yet, but has gone bankrupt for the same reason. It's a restart. It's now owned by the Chinese, so we could still say they're gone. But in any event, I say Steigenberg, you probably remember them, and make place for completely new solutions like Le Pen, Radisson, Citizen M, and Starbucks. Whereby it's all about the experience, and by the way, we're selling coffee, by the way, we're selling rooms. So after years of study, what did I see as a sort of common denominator? Is that if you're looking at experience stars or star experience providers, they all are reverse thinkers. And Cliff was the first reverse thinker that I met. and worked for companies that applied reverse thinking big time. And they have a completely different set of 4 Ps, which I also thought was interesting. It's not about product, place, and price, and what have you, but it's about purpose. It's about people. It's about promise and proposition, which is, I think, a more compelling and a more appealing way of looking at the world. And the experienced stars are able to convert satisfied customers, guests, patients, passengers, into fans of their brand. There is a little hospital next door. It's called the Sparne. You know it? Who knows the Sparne hospital? Not too good, I hope. But the Sparne was one of the first in the Netherlands who also reversed their thinking in terms of making appointments. Suppose that you have 3 doctors to visit. What happens in most hospitals? Wegje.
Quick points. Yeah, you have to make your own appointment.
Exactly. So 3 series of touch points. You need to find out where to make the appointment. You make the appointment, and it's probably 3 different days. At the Sparne, it's not only 3 different days, but they actually reverse the journey. You get 1 appointment, 1 room, and the 3 doctors will come to you. Which is, I think, a beautiful example that even in hospitals you can apply reverse. Now we need to look at politics, I guess, but that's maybe another topic. So for you, I think for today and tomorrow and after, the big questions are, in what way are you meaningful? And what is your purpose? Because this is what Generation Y and Z are looking for. And if you don't deliver, then they won't want to work for you. The Gen Y and Gen Z have 3 things in common. They want to belong to something that's meaningful, they want to contribute, and they want to get recognition for their contribution. So if you don't have a purpose that is relevant, then you probably get what we call shift survivors. People who work for the money instead of who really ignite your brand. And the nice thing about meaningfulness is not just about love and being fluffy, but it's really hard bottom line results. Better performance in KPIs, share of wallet, and outperforming the stock market. So thinking reverse is not only taking your purpose as leading, but like yin and yang, it's the why and the who combined, which is really the essence of change. And I think in a tribute to Arne and Hubert, who brought us to, we started Le Pain Quotidien in the Netherlands with fish. You got the concept, you thought actually it should be bigger than fish, then you brought us to New York, to Dubai, and actually we're conquering the world in our partnership, it's beautiful. So let's look at the essence of Le Pain Quotidien. And for those of you who work with us a longer time know that we like to have compasses, roadmaps, or blueprints, however you call it. And the blueprint of Le Pain Quotidien, we create meaningful connections. It's a hell of a lot more appealing than if it's about organic food, because organic food can be copied. Creating meaningful connections, the words can be copied, but in essence, who knows Le Pain Quotidien in the stores? Then you know if you walk into the store, there is this huge table. And the table is not a coincidence, which most probably don't know the story, and I didn't. But the table was there because the founder, Alain Coulmont, was intending to fight loneliness. He said that people are getting lonely at a younger age, year after year. And the idea behind the big table, the communal table, is that you're actually, even if you're alone, you go shopping, you can still have meaningful connections with other people over good food. So the good food suddenly became what we do. But why we do it is creating meaningful connections, which is, I think, a beautiful example. And then combined, we are hosts. Long discussion we had, because host, you could say that's corny. But you could also say, well, to hell with corny. Let's make it, you're a hero. Again, if you're a host, you're a hero. And 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 if And let's bring the sex back to, in a matter of speaking, hospitality. It is actually sexy. It's like nerds. Being a nerd was, I think, for decades was a curse word, and now it's cool to be a hero or to be a nerd. So, in essence, I think it's pretty simple. If you hire people who are naturally connecting, they will be connecting. If they're naturally warm, they will be warm. Providing you don't have morons as managers who tell people what to do, but you have leaders who actually set up people for success, who are reversing the way of working. And later on, we'll get, this is the introduction to the beautiful work that Big Shots and us have been working on, whereby if you look at stars, it's all about people who are simply surprising, touching, assisting and recognizing, which is sort of the common denominator. If you look at big brands like Nespresso, Lush, Kiehl's, we talked about, Citizen M, I mean beautiful game-changing experience brands who have those 4 behaviors in common. And that said, I'd like to introduce Cliff, my friend. I think you're going to take this audience on a tour whereby you make it very clear it's not about sales per square meter, that's thinking in systems, in process, but it's about experience per square meter. Cliff, thank you for joining us.